you are losing. Not because you are weak, not because you have not tried, but because you have never realized that you are in a game with no referee, no audience, no reminders, just you, in the dark, constantly moving, constantly choosing, without knowing why you are choosing. You think you are moving forward. You think you are in control. But in fact, every step you take does not come from strategy, but from fear. Fear of being left behind. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of not being good enough in the eyes of someone or yourself. And so you move, out of habit, out of reflex, not like a real player. And that is the most dangerous thing. You are participating in a game that you do not know you are playing. You do not know who you are on this board. A pawn, sacrificed and forgotten. A queen, powerful but vulnerable. A player, or the king, the center of it all, but the one who easily forgets his own worth. No one tells you, no one stops to remind you. This game has never been about winning or losing. It's about what you choose to protect. But do you remember the last time you really thought about it? Or are you used to waking up every morning, wearing the mask of being strong, smart, determined, while inside you are a mess with no answers? You are losing not because you haven't arrived, but because you have dropped yourself right from the start. Because in this game, there is nothing worse than moving forward without knowing where you are going. There is nothing more exhausting than trying to keep up appearances at the expense of your inner peace. Take a look. Everything you are holding on to, your job, your relationships, your reputation, the expectations of others, is it really what you need to protect? Or are they just a cover to help you avoid the most uncomfortable question? What am I playing to protect? In chess, the king is not the strongest piece, but if he is lost, the game is over. And the irony is, you, the core of your own life, are the first person you abandon. You care for others, you please them, you sacrifice sleep, peace, honesty with yourself, just to keep a chess position that looks good. But inside, you are falling apart, little by little. So today, don't rush to move on. Don't rush to the next move. Stop, not to give up, but to wake up. Because if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what is most important, then every step, no matter how fast, no matter how clever, is taking you away from yourself. And that is true failure, not losing to others, but losing to yourself. The first and most important question in life is not, how do I win, but what am I defending? If you don't have the answer, don't move forward, because every step without a purpose will only take you to a place you don't want to go. Be honest, be still, because only when you see the king inside you can you really start playing. And for the first time, you will no longer lose. You don't know who you are in this game. That's not a criticism, but a painful truth that most of us live with. You wake up every morning, wearing different roles: the responsible son, the competent colleague, the helpful friend, the ideal lover. But in all of them, which one is you? You're constantly on the move, searching for validation, trying to meet unspoken expectations, as if the only thing that makes you valuable is the eyes of others. You think it's freedom, but in reality, it's the deepest dependence on external recognition, approval, applause. And when that's gone, you feel empty, aimless, lost. Not because you're weak, but because you've never learned to define your worth from within. The king doesn't know. He's the king. That's the beginning of all mistakes. When you don't know that you are the center, you will act like a supporting piece. You will think that if you just run faster, contribute more, endure silently for longer, everything will be fine. But you forget that in chess, when the king is not protected, all strategies collapse, and so do you. You have built a career, a relationship, an image, but you have not built yourself. You do not ask, what do I need? What do I really want? Am I living up to what I believe? You only ask, how can I not fail? How can I not be left behind? How can I make people happy with me? And in these questions, you have gradually lost the most precious thing, your identity. You do not know your boundaries. You do not know what is worth protecting and what is worth letting go. So you protect everything, even the things that are hurting you. You hold on to a relationship that has drained you, a job that has drained your life, an image you no longer recognize, because you think letting go is failure. But the truth is, there is nothing more dangerous than holding on to something that is taking you astray. Try stopping and observing. Are you living your life or someone else's? Are you moving in the direction you want, or are you just drifting? And if you stop trying to please everyone, who are you? That question is not comfortable. It confuses you. It can scare you. But that fear is proof that you have lived too long without truly being inside yourself. You have become accustomed to living outside yourself, responding, reacting, enduring, and have forgotten that the only role you cannot play in this life is yourself. A king does not need to shout that he is important. He does not need to appear in every battle. He just needs to hold his position, hold his value, and everything else revolves around him. But if the king forgets who he is, if he abandons his position to seek validation in areas that do not belong to him, the game is lost before it begins. And so are you. You are at the center of your life, but you have let everything else control you. Other people's emotions, praise and criticism, society's definition of success, the noise of social media, all of it pulls you away from your place, away from your being, away from your truth, away from your inner peace. This is where you need to go back, not back to the past, but back to your place, your own center. Sit down in silence and ask yourself, if I am the king, what is the thing that I am most worthy of protecting? What, if lost, would make me not who I am? The answer does not come from the mind. It comes from the truth inside you. And when you find that answer, you will no longer move blindly. You will stand still for a reason. And sometimes, just standing still at the right time is an unbeatable move. You think you have a strategy, but you are actually just reacting to pressure, to expectations, to the constant noise from outside. Every step you take is not rooted in clarity, but in confusion disguised as striving, development, success. You are busy. You are constantly taking action. But do you really know what you are doing? That is the biggest problem. You do not live by strategy. You live by noise. You let applause guide you. Let comparison guide you. Let the fear of being left behind motivate you. And so you run. Run really fast. Try really hard. Not because you know where you are going, but because you can't stand the thought of standing still. The noise of today's society is not always criticism. Many times it comes from compliments, accolades, beautiful titles that you feel compelled to achieve to prove that you are worthy of living. But anything that forces you to prove something is also implicitly telling you that you are not enough. And when you believe that, you fall into the biggest trap, living to follow, not living to lead. True strategy is not loud. It does not come from rushing. It does not come from a sense of urgency that I have to do something now. Strategy comes from silence, from observation, from those seemingly meaningless pauses that are when you understand yourself best. But have you ever stopped long enough to listen to yourself? Or every quiet moment is a time when you turn on music, open a video, scroll through the screen, just to avoid facing the question, what am I doing this to achieve? So you live by momentum. Someone has achieved this. You feel like you should too. Someone posts a perfect life. You feel like you need a similar flashy version, but no one tells you living by momentum is the shortest way to lose direction, because momentum is meaningless. Momentum is just speed, and speed without direction will only get you to a dead end faster. You are fighting on so many fronts: work, relationships, image, recognition. But are you fighting for what is truly yours, or are you in a war you never agreed to fight? Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, if I had nothing to prove to anyone, what would I choose to do today? Most of us don't live by values, we live by reflex. One person gives you a cold look, you flinch. One person judges, you change. One person doesn't acknowledge, you double down. But that's not strategy, that's reaction. And reaction is the fastest way to become a puppet in your own life. Real strategy isn't knowing what to do when things are going well. It's knowing what to never sacrifice, even when things are falling apart. But you are so used to making trade-offs, time for others, energy for goals that are not yours, and worse, peace in exchange for a little recognition. You think that moving forward is a sign of success, but have you ever thought that, perhaps, not daring to stop is the greatest failure? You are afraid of standing still, but sometimes, standing still is the most powerful action, because it comes not from helplessness, but from understanding, I will not move forward if it means betraying myself. That is strategy, not moving forward at all costs, but moving at the right time in the right direction, for the right reason. Every move does not start with how to move, but with what am I protecting? If you are not clear about that, do not move, because moving without a reason is not winning. It is losing organized direction. Silence is where strategy is formed. Meaning is the only thing that helps you fight the noise. And when you can stand still in silence, you are stronger than the million people who run for fear of not being seen. Stop running. Listen. And then choose your path. Not because you are forced to, but because you know it is the path that leads you to what is truly worth keeping. The most dangerous enemy is never in front of you. Not the demanding boss, not the ex-lover, not the backstabbing co-worker, not the society with its unreasonable standards. The most dangerous enemy is the one you can't see because it lives right inside you. It's the voice you hear every night, when everything around you is quiet, small, steady, but haunting. You're not good enough. Don't dream too much. Everyone will leave you. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It doesn't rush. It waits patiently, waiting until you're at your weakest. And then it comes out, gently reminding you, you're not enough. The scary thing is that you've heard it for so long that you think it's a part of you. You live by it. Make decisions by it. Avoid opportunities by it. Try to do things the way it approves. And so you think you're living, realistically, when you're really just living through your wounds. Don't confuse reason with fear in disguise. Much of what you call reason is actually unhealed pain, old hurt masquerading as sanity. You say, I can't do it. Not because you're incapable, but because someone in your past made you believe it. And now you're just repeating an old belief. A belief that's not yours. We all have cracks. Old experiences have left their mark on our minds. Betrayals, abandonments, failures, shame. They lie there, insidious. And if you don't face them, they control you. They choose for you the safe job, the stable relationship, the low-risk path, not because you really want it, but because they make you afraid to try something else. The enemy within you is not a giant darkness that needs to be destroyed. It is just an unheard part, a child who has been hurt, never comforted, and the more you ignore it, the more it will dominate you. But if you have the courage to sit down, listen to it, talk to it, you will realize it does not want you to fail, it just wants you to be safe. But in that safety, you are slowly dying. You need to start to distinguish which voice comes from fear, which voice comes from clarity. These two have similar voices, but the feeling is completely different. The voice of fear makes you shrink, feel small, feel inadequate. The voice of clarity makes you calm, steady, even though you know the road ahead will not be easy. Not every insecurity in your head is true, but if you do not check it, you will live as if it is true. And that is how you limit yourself. No one needs to stop you. You do it yourself because of an invisible voice that has been there for so long. So the greatest freedom does not come from controlling everything outside. It comes from being able to recognize and not be manipulated by the inner world. When you know where the enemy is, you no longer fight blindly. When you understand why you are afraid, you no longer let that fear make decisions for you. Imagine a moment. You are standing before an opportunity. Your heart wants it, but your mind says no. The question is not should I do it, but who in me is saying no? Is it the wounded part, the part that has been rejected, or the part that truly knows you? Only when you answer that question will you begin to live as a free person. Not free from the world, but free from yourself, from the barriers you never knew you were carrying. And you know what the best part is? You can re-establish a relationship with yourself. You can learn to love that vulnerable part, not to be weak, but to no longer fear it. When you stop running from fear, it stops chasing you, because in the end, the greatest strength is not that you have never been afraid, but that you no longer let fear make your decisions for you. And that is when you are no longer a puppet in someone else's game, but a true player in your own game. Success is not what others see. True success is what you feel when no one is there to praise you. It is the sense of relief, the peace inside you when you know you have not betrayed yourself on this journey. We have been taught that success is recognition, the spotlight, the applause, the results that can be counted, measured, photographed. But what they don't tell you is that there are people who have achieved all of those things and still feel empty, not because they lack anything, but because they have sacrificed too many things that cannot be counted. Peace, value, faith, kindness to yourself. It is not wrong to want to move forward, to want to achieve. The desire to grow is a natural part of being human. But when you start sacrificing your core just to achieve something external, you are no longer successful. You are just surviving in the shell of a winner. Inner strength doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from no longer being controlled by things that don't belong to you. It comes from saying no to an opportunity that is tempting but not worth it. It comes from consistently choosing the slower, truer path, even when you know that some people won't understand. You can be successful by someone else's definition, and fail in your own life. Because you never ask, what does success mean to me? And if you never ask that question, all your efforts may be directed toward a destination that doesn't belong to you. So it's time to redefine success, not by speed, not by wealth or likes, but by one thing. Are you living what you truly believe in? Are you feeling fulfilled inside, despite the chaos outside? Are you at peace, even when no one else is? Are you choosing from clarity, rather than from fear of missing out? If the answer is yes, you are stronger than most of the world. On the other hand, if every decision comes from the pressure to prove yourself, then no matter how much you achieve, fatigue will still follow you like a shadow, because you are not living to nurture yourself, but to answer questions that are not yours. True success begins when you are brave enough not to need to satisfy anyone, when you dare to choose peace over show-off, when you accept slowly but surely, deeply but truly, when you understand that the price of being misunderstood by others is much lighter than the price of misunderstanding yourself. And once you live with that inner strength, you will no longer need anyone to prove that you are worthy, because you already know. You have touched something deeper than achievement. It is the unity of what you think, what you feel, what you do. That is the power that does not need to be shown. Strength is built from within, through small choices every day. Honest choices, kind choices, clear choices, quietly but resolutely standing up for what matters, even when the world calls you a fool for not taking the golden opportunity. Because success isn't about going the farthest, it's about not losing yourself along the way. You can lose many things in life: money, status, relationships. But if you keep yourself, you have never failed. And if you lose yourself, even if you have everything, you are still empty. That's why, at some point, you have to sit down and ask yourself honestly, what am I building? And is it deep enough, real enough to sustain me when everything else falls apart? That answer, if it comes from truth, doesn't need to be flashy. It will be quiet, but steady, like a small smoldering flame, not blazing but never extinguished. And from that fire you will live, not just to move forward, but to keep what no one can take away. There is a big misconception that the world has planted in us, that power and clarity are the same thing, that the more power you have, the more freedom you have, the more control you have over others, the more control you have over your life. But that is an illusion, and if you don't realize it soon, you will spend your life chasing something that will leave you empty. External power is easy to see: status, influence, the ability to get people to do what they want. But clarity is different. It is an internal form of power, unobtrusive, unspoken, invisible, but felt when you walk into a room. Clarity is not about who you can boss around, but about not letting anyone control you. You can have great power and still be manipulated, because power without clarity will make you live to play a role, not to live your truth. You become a hostage to your own image, afraid of losing the gaze of others, afraid of losing your position, afraid of losing admiration, and so you act out of fear, not out of choice. Clarity is when you know you don't need to be seen to survive. It is when you are quiet enough to recognize what is real, what is fake, what is your heart's voice, what is just the echo of the crowd. Clarity helps you stand firm when no one is cheering you on. It allows you to say no without feeling guilty, to stand alone without feeling lonely. The difference between those who seek power and those who live in clarity is purpose. Those who seek power often act from a place of lack. They need more to feel enough. They have to win someone to know they are on the right track. They have to be better than others to feel valuable. Those who have clarity are the opposite. They don't need to be better than anyone because they know who they are. Clarity doesn't come from absolute certainty. It comes from understanding what is no longer needed. How can you be clear when you are constantly accumulating things that don't say anything about you? Adding a project, a relationship, a promise, just to fill the fear of not being enough, not to live more deeply. Then you burn out, and you think you are living right, just because you are doing a lot. But doing a lot is not clarity. Being busy is not having direction. Running fast is not going in the right direction, and moving up is not growing. Clarity requires you to dare to let go, dare to erase, dare to be less, to find the true more, dare to not know, to learn again, dare to take a step back, so as not to lose the irreplaceable. You will not hear yourself clearly if you are always trying to please others. You will not see the way if your gaze is always drawn to the most crowded place. And you will never be authentic if you only live for approval. When you have clarity, you don't need power to feel powerful, because clarity gives you something that power can never guarantee: inner consistency. And from there you no longer need to win every argument. No need to grab the limelight. No need to prove you are present. Enough whole. Clarity makes you dangerous in a very special way. You are not easily bought, not easily manipulated, not easily threatened, because you have chosen what you will never trade. And that is what makes you truly free. Not when you are on top, but when you are in the right place. Not when everyone is following you, but when you are no longer following anyone. The world may turn, others may change, trends may disappear, but if you have clarity, you are still you. No noise, no power, just you, and that's enough. In the end, every game of chess leads to one place within yourself. No matter how many pieces you have on the board, whether you are ahead or besieged, whether you are being cheered or silenced, it all means nothing if you are broken inside. You may win in the eyes of the world, but if you lose your peace, if you lose your true self, if you no longer recognize who you are when you wake up in the morning, then it is not a victory, it is a surrender disguised as achievement. Inside is where every game begins, and it is also where every end is decided. No one can see the cracks you hide inside. No one realizes that you are playing for exhaustion. You still smile, still say the right things, still work effectively, still walk steadily. But inside, maybe, you have abandoned yourself long ago. There are games you never lose. You just slowly lose parts of yourself to keep the board looking the same. You sacrifice time for things that don't feed you. You sacrifice emotions for relationships that only give you back. You sacrifice values that's for a position that isn't really meant for you. And then you tell yourself, it's just a phase, I'll find myself again later. But are you sure that you'll still find yourself? The truth is, no one can destroy you faster than you do when you don't know what's non-negotiable. Not knowing your limits, not knowing what you're protecting, you'll easily give yourself over to whatever seems worthwhile at the time. But not everything that glitters is worthy, and not every applause is a sign that you're on the right path. A person can be celebrated everywhere, but inside they have a void that has never been filled. A person can be successful in everything, but not sit still for 5 minutes without panicking. The key to holding on to everything is not holding on too tightly. It is knowing what is enough, what is real, what is non-negotiable. And that is not taught to you. It comes when you have the courage to stop, sit down, listen to your inner voice, the voice that has been drowned out by the noise of the world for too long. Ask yourself one question only. What am I neglecting inside, just to keep the outside looking good? If you answer honestly, you will know where you stand on the board. You will know whether you need to move or stand still. You will know what you need to protect and what you need to let go. Moving is not always the wise move. Silence is not always surrender. Sometimes the most courageous action is not to react. It's daring to say no when everyone else says yes. It's daring to stay whole when everything else is pushing you to melt into a version of yourself that others can accept. Your inner self is not a place to hide from the world. It's a fortress that, if built right, will keep you intact through all the storms. And to build it, you don't need bricks and stones. You need honesty, consistency, kindness to yourself. Because when you stand strong on the inside, the outside can no longer shake you. When the king inside you knows what he won't trade, any game can be turned. And even when you're alone, you're not lost. Because the real game isn't about who wins. It's about who stays true to themselves until the end. You don't need to win quickly. You just need to not lose. And sometimes, just one decision, one moment of honesty, one pause to listen to yourself can change the whole game. Not by force, but by awareness. Not by weapons, but by clarity. And that is the greatest victory.